go back and play some of the audio tape and the videotape of folks of what they've said about Donald Trump over the last 3 or 4 months. I mean, Jamie Raskin, I mean, face it, the Democrats were openly accusing him of being the next coming of Adolf Hitler. That if we had voted for him, it would be the end of the democracy as we know it. That's not an exaggeration. That's not me using hyperbole as sort of spinning what the Democrats said about him. That's what they said, and they tried to convince people. I respect the fact that nobody objected. I think that's a good thing. And I think Democrats probably decided it was better for their brand long-term not to object. But the next time they go on TV and tell people, oh, this person is the next coming of Adolf Hitler, how are they going to justify what they just did?
Well, because
I think
this
there's
is
an
what the
inconsistency.
electorate voted for. All they did was say, yes, this is how people voted. That's not their vote.
I get that, but don't forget, what did Hillary Clinton say? Oh, remember, Hitler was elected, which he wasn't, by the way. So there's always that. If you really, really thought he was Adolf Hitler, would you vote to certify the election? I think the answer is no. If you really believed it, you would not. And in fact, I wouldn't if I really thought somebody was Adolf Hitler. I wouldn't vote to certify the election. So what I think you've just seen is, look, I applaud the way it went down today. It's the smooth transition of power. I'm a huge fan, and I think it was a class move today to do this. But it certainly undermines some of the hyperbole that they were using going into the election.
As we mentioned, we heard from Joe Biden in an op-ed, Kamala Harris in a carefully produced video presentation talking about her solemn duty, both of them going out of their way, though, to remind us of what happened 4 years ago. How should we catalog January 6, 2021? You've got Donald Trump on one side saying it was a day of love, and obviously you saw more than 1,000 people plead guilty to very serious crimes.
And we've talked about it before, and it's sad that – sad, maybe that's not the right word. If you think it was a peaceful protest, there's evidence of that. I mean, I remember seeing it. We've talked about this. I was in town. In fact, I was in the building that morning. I was at my condo in the afternoon, and I saw the people walking through the rotunda, and one person stepped across the velvet ropes, and somebody else grabbed them and pulled them back. So there were absolutely peaceful protesters, and if you want to say it was a peaceful protest, there's some evidence to that. If you want to say it was a violent insurrection, there is certainly evidence to that. Yeah. My sad, and I will use sad here because I am really sad about this, is that we don't have any sort of common ground over what January 6th was. You've got, if you voted Democrat, you think one way. If you vote Republican, you think another way, at least for most folks. I wish we really knew what happened. And now there's evidence out, or excuse me, there's suggestions out that there were FBI people in the crowd. Is that right? I've heard allegations that the Democrats tampered with the evidence during the January 6th commission. Is that right? We don't know what the facts are. And it's really hard to have an informed opinion about something if you don't have the facts.
Well, we do know people lost their lives both on that day and in the aftermath. There is video evidence of many of these individuals assaulting police officers. Should those people who are on video, some of whom have already pleaded guilty to these crimes, be pardoned?
That's a great question. Here's how I hope they deal with it. Look, the pardon power is a strange thing that we give to presidents. Why we give it to presidents, I'm not really sure. It's more of a king or queen type of thing. I hope that they go through it case by case. And if they do give pardons to some of the January 6th most violent offenders, let's say, that they look at it and say, okay, in this particular circumstance, let's use the sake of discussion, the jail time doesn't seem to meet the crime. Okay, that would be grounds for a pardon. It would be, people would look at the use of a pardon there and go, okay, that's an orthodox application of the presidential pardon authority. To come in and just say it never happened. It was a peaceful protest. Everybody gets off. I think that would be wrong. It happened. The day absolutely happened, and we have to figure out why it happened, what happened, and then make sure it doesn't happen again. And if you try and sweep it under the rug of history, I think that you're doing a disserce.
I'm sure you remember the way you felt.
Oh, I was angry. Unless I quit.
You resigned over this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still angry about the day. And if you're an American, you should be angry about the day. Even if you're one of the people who thinks it was a peaceful protest, you can look at what you've just talked about, Kaylee, and say, look, but there were other people there who were not, and I'm angry about that. And I think that's not unreasonable.
Do you think we could have seen a repeat of what happened 4 years ago today had Donald Trump not won? You know, I get asked that question all the time, and I tell people I am the worst person to ask that question of because I didn't see it coming in the first place. I really didn't, and that's what frightens me the most about that day is that not only did I not see it coming, if you'd asked me, he said, Mick,
if there'd be riots and a transition, I never would have thought it would have been my party, the law and order party, that was involved with it in any fashion. Mm-hmm. So I am the wrong person to ask about what we might have seen today if the outcome had been different, because I didn't see it 4 years ago.
In the post-mortem that everyone's walking around the war room talking about stop the steal with Roger Stone, that was not every member of the administration. Otherwise, you would have been exposed to that in advance.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was a minor member of the administration at the time, but yes,
Chief of Staff.
No, not that time.
Okay.
I was Special Envoy to Northern Ireland on January 6th.
Understood.
So yeah, I've been in Northern Ireland for about 6-8 months.
Good. Thank you for reminding us of that.
Otherwise, I would have been involved in a lot more January 6 investigations than I was.
I suspect that's absolutely true. Talk to us about what's happening inside this transition right now, because they're trying to move beyond, obviously, the story that we're describing. And reading the interview today in Axios with Susie Wiles, the whole mantra is no drama this time.
Yes.
Is that possible?
Yes, it is. Is it? Would I bet on it?
Yeah.
No, I think it's. But you asked me if it's possible. It's absolutely possible. Mm-hmm. What she laid out in her Axios interview is exactly what you would want a chief of staff to lay out. It's textbook. It's absolutely perfect. The question is going to be, can she pull it off, or is somebody, I'll use one of my favorite foils, Peter Navarro, going to go out and start leaking to the press as soon as he doesn't get the answer that he wants in a White House meeting? He did it all the time. We all knew he did it all the time. If the president continues or allows that to happen this time, then it will undermine Susie's ability to run the building in the way she laid out.
Stopping leaks is the key.
Well, it's just hiring people who buy into the fact you're on the team.
Okay.
John Bolton was never on the team. I'll beat up on Bolton for a second. I mean, John always thought that he was the president. And if Donald Trump decided something that went against what John Bolton thought he should do, John thought it was his duty to try and change that. And if he would go out and leak or do whatever to try and change the president's decision, that undermines the authority of the chief. It undermines the proper operation of a West Wing. So no, if Susie's able to do that, and in order to do that, she has to get the buy-in of Donald Trump. Now, you asked me if it's possible. I said yes. Why? Because it looks like it happened on the campaign. It really did. You have to imagine during that campaign, go back and remember, there were some really high points and some really low points during the 2024 campaign. And if she was able to sort of right the ship and keep things calm, quiet, and buttoned down during the good times and the bad, that's as good an indicator as to what it might be like for her running the West Wing.
In that interview, Susie Wiles also pushed back against the notion that these big accomplishments need to happen in the first 100 days. To summarize her words, she basically thinks that's an arbitrary deadline. But we do have questions about what will happen in the most immediate term when Donald Trump takes office, including how the reconciliation process is going to work, whether it's going to be one big, beautiful, powerful bill or two. This is what the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, had to say about yesterday.
We're 15 days out from the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump for his second term, and we want to make sure that we're jump-starting the agenda now over the next 2 weeks so that he's prepared and ready on day one. President Trump is going to prefer, as he likes to say, one big, beautiful bill. And there's a lot of merit to that because we can put it all together, one big up or down vote, which can save the country, quite literally. Reconciliation is the way to get it done. Why? Because you avoid a 60-vote threshold in the Senate. We're targeting a vote in the House, it may be in the first week of April.
So timeline is one thing here, Mick, but just how this gets done is another. Mike Johnson, others in the House have long been advocating for one big bill. Senator John Thune, the majority leader, wants two. Donald Trump, despite advocating for one bill in True Social over the weekend, in an interview with Hugh Hewitt this morning, said he's open to either. So how do you see this going down?
Well, Trump runs the place, right? And he should. He runs the Republican Party. They're in control of the town right now, so he gets to make those decisions. And if I'm Donald Trump, if I'm chief of staff to Donald Trump, why do I care if it's one bill or two? How do I get what I want? How do I get my agenda approved? If you tell me I get a better chance of doing that with one bill, yay, let's do one bill. If it's got to be 16 different bills, I'll do that. The question is going to be this as to whether or not one bill or two. It has to be one of those. It can't be 16 because they only get two shots at the reconciliation apple, right? Two bites at that apple. Do you gain votes by putting a bunch of disparate stuff together, or do you lose votes? Because keep in mind, I don't think they can lose any votes.
Well, and with your knowledge of the House, which do you think the answer is?
I mean, historically in Washington, D.C., the reason you get these massive bills that everybody says they hate is that that's what passes.